Rebitson and I were driving home the other day, or yesterday, I think it was, in fact, and passed by a rather large church in our area. And they had some children out in the playground facility they have there. And they had somebody dressed up as an Easter bunny, you know, I guess giving gifts and it just inspired me to provide this teaching today in the hopes that it might reach some ears that need to hear it. If he who has an ear, let him hear, so to speak. And of course, we were both appalled. It's interesting to me, just the state of affairs where in a place that is supposed to be worshiping the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel, the God of the Bible, that there would be these clearly pagan, undoubtedly pagan elements that would be purposely and intentionally brought in. And it just hurts my heart. It frustrates me. I just shake my head and I just don't understand. I do understand from the standpoint of thousands of years of brainwashing. But I also don't understand of how can people who allegedly read the Bible be okay with this? And why isn't there more of an awakening that's taken place in people's hearts and minds? So good morning. Glad you're here. It has been a wonderful Pesach so far. Our Seder was great. We crashed that early morning. I was going to say night, but it was early morning at 2:00 in the morning. We were up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and well, maybe not quite so bright-eyed and maybe a little less bushy-tailed. But anyway, we made our way rather to the synagogue. We had a wonderful service, even though I think everybody was partially incoherent. And then we went home and had a little nap and then continued to just be blessed with Havdalah and so forth. We counted the Omer for the first time last night. We'll continue that again for the next 49 days leading up to Shavuot. And it's going to just be amazing. So good morning. I'm going to approach this topic today, and I'm not going to be hyperbolic about it or over the top, which I think what people appreciate about Lapid Judaism is what you get here is just straight truth, straight historical fact. We don't make things up. We don't get, we're not over the top. We're not going to attack eggs or bunnies or what have you. First of all, I want to say that I like rabbits. I like bunnies. I have an affinity for Peter Rabbit, and goes back to my childhood and when I was a little boy, I had a little rabbit, and that was my little stuffed animal that I carried around. And so I like rabbits. I like eggs. I like boiled eggs. I like omelets. I love the Rebbitzins deviled eggs. They're absolutely delicious. So I have no problems with bunnies. I have no problems with rabbits. I have no problems with eggs, or I should say. I have a real problem though with the holiday of Easter, because it is absolutely 100% historical fact, not even up for debate, pagan. Now, the way that I approach this topic today, I thought about it. How could I look into the history? A lot of this history I already know, I have known, but I had to refresh my memory on some things and what have you. And so it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. It doesn't require it does not require, a 3-hour long. Let me fix my screen here. There we go. A 3-hour long discussion about this. Let me just say. Let me state. Pardon me. I almost didn't finish my thought. The way that I approached this was I decided to not look at the traditional information that you might search out in this topic, and what I did is I just went to Wiccan and otherwise, pagan sources and websites, and I just to see what they had to say, because interestingly, that there are pagans Well, let me quote to you from one of the Wiccan pages that I went to, and this is a direct quote. It says, "Pagans, wiccans, and heathens all over the world celebrate Ostara," which is where the name Easter comes from. Now, when I read that, I thought that's, of course, nothing new. It doesn't surprise me at all. I know this already. The word Easter is simply it's a word that comes directly from the pagan deity Ostara, or in German, I may mispronounce this, so for you Germans out there, please forgive my Texan, Eostre or Eostre. I might be mispronouncing that. Please forgive me. But is a pagan goddess, and when you go to historical reference sources like Encyclopedia Britannica, the Smithsonian letter, when you look at Encyclopedia Judaica, when you look at historical things like that discuss this topic, I mean, the History Channel has a write-up on this. What you need to know is that it is an unequivocal, undeniably, it's a fact that Easter is derived directly from this pagan celebration of the goddess Ostara, and that it's a well-known thing, and everybody knows. The historians know it's a fact that the Christian celebration that we know today as Easter, with the bunnies and the rabbits, and even the sunrise service that we're going to get to in a minute. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Has nothing to do with the resurrection. All of it comes from this pagan holiday. And here's the thing. This is the curious thing. The way in which pagans and wiccans and heathens celebrate this spring equinox holiday that's dedicated to the goddess Ostara, they celebrate it in the exact same way that Christians celebrate Easter, the exact same way. There's no difference, aside from a slight variation in the way in which the name of the holiday is pronounced. But Ostara, Easter, Eostre, I mean, come on. I mean, you're talking about a dime's worth of difference in pronunciation. But other than that, there's no difference. And so when I read that statement, pagans, wiccans, and heathens all over the world celebrate Ostara, otherwise known as Easter, my initial thought was, that's interesting, because pagans, wiccans, and heathens across the world do not celebrate Passover. Did you catch that thought? They don't celebrate Pesach. They don't celebrate Passover. Only Jews, only the people of God celebrate Passover. See, there's no pagans or wiccans or heathens across the world that are eating matzah or having a seder. And that ought to give people pause. Think about it. If I'm in church and I've got an Easter basket in my lap full of colored eggs, and I'm holding a little stuffed rabbit or maybe a chocolate rabbit, and I'm wearing an Easter dress, and I'm about to have a sunrise service, pagans all over the world are doing just that. 100% like that. In fact, if you went to a Wiccan coven, it may look a whole lot like a church service, actually. But none of that is going to look like Passover. So historically, let's deal with another historical fact. Did any of the disciples or any biblical heroes, to include the Messiah, that they celebrate Easter? No. When did this holiday of Easter become Easter amongst the religion of Christianity? Well, the answer to that is very simple. Another historical fact. In 325 AD, at the Council of Nicaea, for all intents and purposes, the religion of Christianity was created. Yes, created, invented, fleshed out by Constantine and his cronies. Up until that time, believers in the Messiah were celebrating, what's the name of that holiday? Passover. They were celebrating Passover. And so the goal of Constantine and his ilk, known as the Church Fathers, their goal was to strip this religion of Messiah from all of its Judaism. And therefore, one of the key holidays to get rid of was, of course, Passover. You don't want Christians, so-called Christian, quote unquote, doing the exact same holiday that Jews do. Do you? Of course not. Not if you're Constantine and his thugs, known as the church fathers. And so you strip it of its Judaism and you import this very ancient holiday that celebrates a goddess who happens to be the goddess of springtime, the goddess of fertility. Interestingly, in one of the pagan websites I went to some pagan blogs and pagan websites, bona fide pagan. These are straight up pagan. They're proud pagans, proud Wiccans. Okay. I didn't go to any of the sources of the pagan origins of Easter, because a lot of that stuff is hyperbolic. A lot of it is just making stuff up. Like the colored eggs come from the blood of sacrificed children. I couldn't find any proof of that. Now, if you have a bona fide source for that, I'm happy to review it, but I couldn't find any. So that's what I mean. I like to stick with facts and not making stuff up. So here's the deal. In one of the pagan sites I went to, I thought this was a wonderful statement that I think it's a lady who runs this site. She wrote this, and I quote, "It's pretty easy to see that Easter has pagan origins." And that's the thing. The thing about this topic today, the origins of Easter, is that it's not confusing. It's not it's not even hidden. Just like with Christmas. Listen, historians, it's a historical fact. It's well-known fact. It's not up for debate. Christmas is 100% pagan. Everything about it, 100% pagan. It is a known fact. And by the way, pagans and wiccans and heathens celebrate Christmas just like Christians do in the exact same way. But they don't celebrate Hanukkah. You see what I mean? Like, if you celebrate Hanukkah, you're really being set apart. You celebrate Passover, you're really being set apart. You have a Christmas tree or an Easter bunny, and you're just like all the other pagans. I mean, really. So one thing that this holiday celebrates as well is, you say, well, what's the point? Well, this, by the way, I should mention that Ostara is one of the 8 Sabbats, as they call it, like Shabbats, of paganism, of Wiccanism or whatever. It's one of their big, holidays. They happen to have 8 holidays, just like Jews have 8 holidays, because the Satan is always trying to copy. And so this particular holiday celebrates Earth's rebirth, aka resurrection. So isn't it interesting that pagans and Wiccans and heathens are celebrating the holiday of Easter? Let's just call it Easter, because Easter, Ostara, Eostre, whatever. They're celebrating the holiday of Easter as a day of resurrection and rebirth, just like Christians. And the reason is because this is supposed to be the sun gods. Hello, can you hashtag Christmas? The sun gods return from the darkness of winter. So it just so happens that this pagan holiday celebrates the return of the sun god. Now, who's the sun god in ancient Rome? Sol Invictus, who happened to be the patron deity of Constantine. You know those ancient lithographs you see where it's got the skinny guy and he's doing this, and he's got the halo above his head with rays coming out? Did you know that those are ancient lithographs of Sol Invictus, the sun god of Rome? The name has been changed to Jesus Just like the statue of Apollo has been changed to Paul, and the statue of Athena was changed to Mary. But originally they were all pagan deities. So when people bow down to these statues, they are literally bowing down to the statue of a pagan deity. So we have the celebration of the rebirth, of the resurrection, okay? The sun god. Now comes the cute little rabbit and eggs. Now, I will have to admit something, and I never knew what I'm about to tell you. I always wondered, what in the world does a rabbit have to do with an egg? I never got that, right? And of course, one could ask, what do rabbits and eggs have to do with the gospel message? The answer is, well, nothing. Of course, naturally, people have said, well, it's the resurrection egg, which, by the way, based on what I'm about to say here, which some of this I know you guys know, but it's a refresher. Taking a pagan element like the Easter egg or the Ostara egg and somehow trying to make it fit into the resurrection of the Messiah by calling it a resurrection egg. I have to say that aside from the golden calf, I can't think of anything else that would be more of a slap in the face to the God of Israel. I mean, really, it's pretty egregious, actually. That's just a thought, but I find it to be extraordinarily egregious and offensive. On our journey, Rebbetzin and I used to celebrate Easter way back, in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. As HaShem was opening our eyes and helping us to come out of all this. Of course, we were just like, like most people, we're like drones just following the crowd. Easter, resurrection. We're just kind of going along. But one day we were walking into probably a Hobby Lobby or something like that. And we were going to buy some deco to celebrate. And something just came over me when I turned down the aisle, and there was nothing but rabbits and Easter eggs and colors and all this kind of stuff. I remember saying to the Rebbetzin at that time, this is a long, long time ago. But anyway, what does any of this have to do with the Messiah? Rabbits, yeah, they're cute. Eggs, okay, all this stuff. What does any of this have to do? Flowers? And we just left. We were done. At that moment, we were just done. Something just came over me. Came over us. She agreed 100%. We were like, yeah, no, we're out. We're done. Okay. And then, of course, that was all part of the journey. And there comes a point, listen, if you're a Christian, you're watching this program because you feel kind of weird too, but you don't want to say anything to your other Christian friends because you don't want to be, ostracized. Get it? Ostracized, ostracized. But you're watching this program kind of in secret, but you feel really uncomfortable taking your kids to the Easter egg hunt because you're trying to figure out, what does this have to do with Messiah? The answer is nothing. It has everything to do with a pagan goddess, 100%. Let me just give you a little bit of advice. You just have to stop. You just have to say no. You just have to say, well, I'm not doing this anymore. We're not doing this anymore. You just have to quit. There's no, well, it doesn't mean that to me now. Stop it. Just stop. Okay. None of that is even remotely relevant. We can't do 100% pagan things and somehow say, well, I'm not actually worshiping the goddess Ostara. I'm just simply taking all of her stuff and now saying it belongs to Jesus. Well, let me ask you a question. I used this analogy before, but suppose that you got married and your spouse's birthday was, let's just say, July 4th. But before you got married, you were engaged, almost got married to somebody else, and their birthday was April 5th. And there was all kinds of deco and all kinds of things that, this your ex used to have and so forth. And so you're just accustomed to it. And, April 5th birthday is like stuck in your brain, and all those deco, you have a lot of nostalgia, all the fragrances of everything and all the sights and sounds and blah blah. And so basically you tell your spouse, I know your birthday is in July, but it's really hard for me to remember, and plus I have kind of like this weird attachment to April 5th, and all the accoutrements that go along with that. And I just really, really think it was just a cool time for me and just a lot of fun. I really, really loved it. And so here's what I'd like to do. If you're okay with it, I'm sure you will be, because well, who cares, right? I would like to celebrate your birthday on April 5th with all of those accoutrements and all those decorations and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm no longer going to be thinking about them. I'm going to be thinking about you. And that shouldn't matter, right? Because as long as we're doing this about you and not about them, it shouldn't matter what day or what celebration techniques we use, or what traditions, right? I mean, come on. So yeah. Now I want to ask you a question. If you're watching this program today and you think that that's totally cool, and if that was you and you were the spouse, you'd be like, yeah, who cares? Then yeah, do Easter, because that's fine. But if you're listening to this analogy and you're like, no, yeah, this is a serious conversation and it's not going to work out well for you, then stop doing Easter. It's just that simple. Okay. This is why I love you. And it's why, this is why this is awesome, is because it's just that simple. We don't have to get all theologically, you remember, for those of you who are older than, say, probably, I don't know, 20. You remember that game Twister? We don't have to get all twisted up in theology for this to make sense. Okay. So anyway, the rabbit. What I didn't know is that the rabbit is the one laying the eggs. Now, you might have known that already. That was news to me. But this rabbit lays the eggs. So Easter egg hunting comes from, according to the historical sources I was able to find in the Encyclopedia Britannica, Easter egg hunting apparently comes from the Germans. And this basically goes back, it appears that the first Easter egg hunt, it was from Germany. Germany is a source of a lot of pagan holidays, okay? A lot of pagan holiday traditions, let me say that. And so, hence the Christmas tree comes from Germany. Thank you, Germany. And so the rabbit lays the eggs, and the eggs are more or less gifts to children who are being good or have been good. And the first German origin Easter egg hunt appears to have occurred in the 1500s. So clearly the disciples were not doing Easter egg hunting, because that was 1,500 years later. And so the Easter bunny becomes pretty much like Santa Claus, which is also of German descent. Santa was actually the German god Odin, who is the father of Thor. So Easter is one of the 8 Sabbaths of the Wiccans, also called Eostre. Please forgive me again if I'm mispronouncing that. And it's interestingly because this goddess is depicted with beams of light and she is often surrounded by animals. And in fact, the animal with which she is most closely associated, of course, is the rabbit or the hare. Now, the legend of the Easter bunny goes back to the fact that this goddess, Ostara, found a wounded bird and nursed the bird back to health, and at some point transformed the bird into a bunny, a hare. Hence the hare's ability to lay eggs. And so therefore the hare, the bunny, became the companion of the goddess Ostara. In fact, that's what this thumbnail is about. When you look at the thumbnail of this video, I put on there a painting of Ostara carrying a bunny and a basket with an egg in it. And if you just Google the goddess Ostara, you'll see several things. You'll see pictures of eggs, colored eggs, and bunny rabbits. You'll see often pictures of a goddess, deity, carrying the bunny rabbit. And so wherever the bunny rabbit is, there is the goddess Ostara. So this is the problem with having somebody dress up as a bunny rabbit and come to your church, because the bunny is now nothing wrong with rabbits in general, guys, but when you associate it with a holiday, this is what we're talking about. Okay. So don't go out there and like think all rabbits are bad. Rabbits have rights too. They're people too. But during this holiday, if you say, hey, this is Easter and here's my Easter rabbit, well, guess who's with it? The goddess Ostara. Interestingly, also, this word in German, the Eostre, means new beginnings. So again, the wiccans and pagans and heathens are celebrating their Easter with new beginnings. Hello. Also, the goddess Ostara is known as the god. Listen to this. How many churches today, or this week, this Sunday, is this right? This Sunday. Today is Good Friday, isn't it? Wow. I had somewhere I wanted to go today, and I just realized they're going to be closed. I see these holidays are not on my radar. I don't even think about it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. This coming Sunday, it's Easter Sunday, right? How many churches are going to have sunrise services? Anybody? We're not. I'm just saying. Do you know of one? I know of several. They're going to have sunrise services, right? Ostensibly because the Messiah was resurrected at sunrise, right? He wasn't. It's historically, factually not true. So why do we have sunrise services? It's probably because this is biblical. No, not biblical at all. Why do we have sunrise services? Because the goddess Ostara is called the goddess of the dawn. The goddess of the dawn. I'm not even I'm not even kidding. So here we have the holiday of Easter, which celebrates the goddess Ostara. Pagans, wiccans, so forth are celebrated in the exact same way. And it just so happens that the main service on Easter Sunday happens to be a sunrise service because the goddess Ostara is the goddess of the dawn. Now, we're being somewhat lighthearted about this, not really, but the point is, this is sickening, isn't it? The reason that I even have this teaching right now is because I want to get people set free. I really do. This is not a slap in the face. It's just simply we're being upfront about and truthful and honest about it so that people can stop doing this because it's wicked and evil. Yes, I said it. Having a sunrise service and having an Easter basket and doing Easter egg hunts is wicked and evil. And, now has God been gracious to people? Sure. God understands that we don't know what we don't know. Okay. The problem is now, So, of course, naturally, the talking about the Easter bunny and the eggs and so forth, the pagans talk about in their information. And by the way, it's an interesting little journey. You might, after we conclude our class here in just a couple of minutes, you might go to your computer and just Google the celebration of Ostara and look at some of the images and read some of the stuff. Go to some of these Wiccan pages and read. It's interesting. I always tell people to do this during Halloween and do this during Christmas. You'll be astounded at just how everything is exactly the same. So anyway, this whole goddess thing is the idea is a fertility energy that comes out of her. Yes, fertility energy that comes out of her. A lot of these paganisms have to do with fertility, interestingly. And I think that, in my opinion, the reason why I think the whole fertility, because the fertility motif is alive during this pagan Easter, it's alive during pagan Christmas. And I think it's because there's a lot of sexual energy that goes out, and people are sexualized. And of course, it's not good, right? So her two, it says in one of the pagan sources I was reading, it says her two in quote unquote important symbols are the rabbits and the eggs. So according to Wiccan sources and pagan sources, the rabbit and egg thing is the two quintessential symbols of the goddess Ostara. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said in the beginning of this class, everything I've talked about here today is absolute historical fact. You can dive deeper into the historical origins and there's lots of interesting things, by the way, about how some of these similar customs and things are found in other ancient pagan cults, like from the Persians and from the Romans and even from the Egyptians. That's because the Satan, he doesn't change much, right? He's got the same playbook. He might change the names a little bit and alter slightly this, that, or the other, but essentially it's really the similar, right? It's the same. So you can do a deeper dive, but the thing that you need to know is that everything I'm talking about here is historical, factually true. It's undeniable. And as I said, if you're listening to me and you're like, oh yeah, I know, yada, yada, whatever, who cares? It's all about Christ now. Fine. Then go back to my birthday spouse analogy. If you cannot agree to that, if you cannot say that if my spouse celebrated my birthday on his ex-girlfriend's or ex-boyfriend's, whichever sex you are, birth date with all the trappings thereof, if I would be 100% okay with that without any qualms whatsoever, then good. Then what that means is you're a principled person, and therefore Easter is your bunny rabbit. However, if you would say, oh, no way would I will let that happen, then Easter, you have to let it go, because God is a jealous God. End of our special Aliyah today. I hope this information has been helpful to you. I hope that it's been something that is going to help you get set free. And listen, share this with your friends. You may have lots of friends who are celebrating Easter. They don't know what they don't know. All they know it's cute. And listen, again, I want to emphasize, I'm I'm an animal guy. Yes, I'm a man's man, but I also like animals and rabbits too. So I get it, right? They're cute. Okay. And I'm okay with that. But listen, seriously, you might want to share this with your friends and say, I love you. And I know you think this is cool and all. And I know your pastor has told you don't worry about it, but you need to worry about it. It matters. Okay. So celebrate, or excuse me, celebrate, share this with them. And please be sure and, click the like button, subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. And don't forget to count the Omer. That happens again tonight. It'll be the second time. So do the counting of the Omer. We will look forward to seeing everybody in shul tomorrow. Woo! And so have a great prep day, and it's going to be amazing. And with God's help, we'll see everybody tomorrow, and it'll be just a lot of fun and good times. So Hag Sameach Pesach, Shabbat Shalom. We will see you then.